Just last week, the New York Stock Exchange announced it would relocate its Chicago branch to Texas. The new entity will be headquartered right here in Dallas, which means more business could be on its way to the Metroplex. Joining us to talk about it, Ryan Chismark. Ryan, thank you for joining us. We have that exciting news in the financial world, but before we talk about it, tell us about your company, Meritax Advisors, and how you fit into the financial world.
Yeah, so our firm Meritax Advisors represent institutional owners of commercial real estate and making sure that their properties are appropriately assessed and then they have a fair property tax liability. So when we think about all the growth here, taxes are really a big part of that growth, and that's where we fit in.
Okay, now to that news. The New York Stock Exchange, their Chicago branch, relocating here to Dallas. So what does it mean for the city and our economy?
Well, there's going to be a employment base that moves here, but I think it's really more of a lagging indicator than anything. When we think about why an exchange would move here, it's really a recognition of all the things we're doing right, all the business that's being done here, the fact that we don't have an income tax and a corporate tax. We've seen all the corporate relocations from New York, Chicago, LA. So this is really planting a flag in Dallas as a financial center, not just for the US, but for the world. We have some of the largest companies that are already traded on the New York Stock Exchange that are based in Texas, like the Oracles, the CBREs, the McKessons of the world. So that makes a lot of sense that these exchanges would try to attract more like kind.
So they're taking notice of what's happening here. What are some of those trends you're seeing? I understand they're calling it the bluebonnet boom. Got a nice ring to it.
Yeah, the bluebonnet boom. So it's just a recognition again of what's working here in Texas. And when you think about Texas as a nation for a second, if we were to break it out, it has the 8th largest GDP in the world. So about $3 trillion. That's bigger than Russia, for context. It's bigger than Brazil. It's actually bigger than Mexico to the south. So when we look at where the migration patterns are from New York, Chicago, and LA, all that population is really getting spread across the south, namely DFW. With that growth is going to come tremendous opportunity as long as our tax system stays the way that it is.
So what does this boom mean for the future of Dallas, not only business-wise, but also as far as community development is concerned?
I think buckle up, we're just getting started. When we look at all the run-up in real estate growth we've had over the last decade, when you take out the little COVID period of time, we actually are on the backside of that now. And if interest rates come down, I think that this is going to be explosive. And I think this is really just a shot in the arm by having the exchanges here. You'll have access to capital like we have traditionally, but now we're getting recognition again in the international spotlight. So it's not just New York anymore. Those exchanges have been around since the 1800s in New York. So think about how significant it is to have exchanges move here. And look at the skyline in New York. I think that's really the potential long term if you look 5 decades out in DFW.
I like the term Y'all Street when comparing it to New York, but we have a lot of industries here in North Texas. Is there an industry you see that could benefit the most from all this growth?
Well, we've seen the announcement of what's happening in Abilene, and I think that's a big deal. When the $500 billion announcement was made by, I think it was President Trump, over a 4-year period, that's going to be the spend in AI. So you think about the markets out there and the potential for growth. That's pretty exciting to add to the resume of Texas success in industries like energy, real estate, finance. Now, if we could get into that fintech space and the AI space, boy, we'd be really formidable in the international stage.
Future wide open. Ryan Chismark, Meritax Advisors, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Daybreak.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you.